How are you, Michael?
Oh, I'm terrific. I'm fantastic. You look great. Are you in Hawaii still, or are you back on mainland?
Kimmy and I are 7 weeks and 7,000 miles into a 4-month tour of America in our motorhome.
Oh, how wonderful. Oh, Richard, you should have told me, because I have a special gift I can get to you that'll make that ride a little bit smoother. No, seriously, you got to tell me where you're going to be next, and I'll see if I can get something to you in advance. Because honestly, it can really help. I don't know if you're a fan of Star Trek at all, but a friend of mine whose name, well, you know him as number one on Star Trek Next Gen. And I got him a couple of these things, and he loved it as he went from his California home to his main home. It was a big deal. So yeah, I'd love to have you have a nice smooth ride with that. So we'll have to make that connection. Susie, you're gonna have to get the info for me so we can make that happen.
Beautiful.
No problem.
All right. Well, let me just welcome everybody. Hey, everybody, welcome to Aligning with Success. My name is Mike DiMuccio. As you know, I'm your host. This is Monday, September 20th, and it's a very special call. I'm always beside myself when this gentleman volunteers his time to share with us. This is none other than the author of The 4-Year Career. I hope you've all had a chance to read it. Richard Bliss Brooke is our special guest. He's asked me a couple of times now to submit my story, and I'm featured in this book, and this is a book that I give. In fact, this is a book that I do a mailing with on a monthly basis for those of you who received it, know 500 PVs. If you do 500 PV in a month in this year, you will have received this a bunch with a few other things from me. So if you're on my team in Canada specifically, but otherwise, and I might say, Richard, this might attribute to the 36% increase in volume that we've seen in Canada. So hello.
Hey.
Yeah, we're kind of doing a 3-to-1 ratio from Canada, US in terms of per capita volume. So I'm pretty pleased with what's going on. And hey, you never know. I think the information here is so packed full of awakenings. And there's more, by the way. I'm going to talk about other things that you've produced as well. But I don't want to do all the talking, because tonight it's about you and it's about your fireside chat. So we're going to open the floor to questions. I'm going to kick it off, if you don't mind, Richard. And just again, you're on a tour, a 7,000-mile tour, you're saying, through the US?
Well, we've done 7,000 miles in 7 weeks. We're
wow.
currently in New York City.
Nice.
And let's see, tomorrow we're headed to a different part of New Jersey. And then we actually fly to Salt Lake City for a couple of days, and then we come back, and then we go to Boston, and then Delaware, and then Washington, D.C., Asheville, North Carolina, Virginia first before North Carolina, Atlanta, Florida, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California. We'll be done in mid-November, and then we have a motorhome for sale. We just bought it. We just bought it 7 weeks ago. We're driving it around America, and then we're going to sell it.
What an awesome plan. Wow. Okay. I hope you get into what you're doing. I mean, what brought this on? But before you do that, just some protocol for everybody. If you have a question for Richard, please put it in the chat. I'll be scrolling through the chat to look at some of your questions and feed them to him. I've got a couple from my daughter, Sophia. By the way, I don't know if you know this, Richard, but, oh yeah, you do, because she was on one of the calls. Yep. So Sophia, my daughter, my other daughter, Savannah, and my niece, Elena, 22 and 23-year-olds, joined Nikan about 3.5 months ago. They all went silver in their first 3 months. And so we're super excited, super pleased with their progress. And they're really a generation that is going to bring a whole new dimension to Nikan, especially being a legacy company, and being a legacy company that's been around for a while. Obviously, the demographics of Nikan is a little on the older side, and they're going to help it swing back the other way. And she gave me a couple of questions to ask you, so I'm going to kick off with that. But let's hear more about your story.
Well, we just decided we were tired of being home Can you get everybody to mute
Yeah,
themselves?
I'm going to just, I'm going to see if I can do that manually, but if you're just joining us, please mute your lines. Richard, I'm going to have to mute all and then you'll have to unmute. I can't single out that one. Oh, there we go. Okay. I think I got it.
There you
Okay.
go. So what you can do is when somebody has a question, they can raise their hand and then you can bring them, unmute them, I guess, so they can ask their
That
question.
might be an interesting way to do it. Okay. I did have a few in the chats already, but since they're already there and you got them in the chats, that's a great idea. So raise your hand when you have a question and then we can just maybe go that way. So you were...
Kimmy and I just decided that we were tired of sitting home and tired of not seeing our friends and our family and our team and our clients. So we bought a motorhome sight unseen and we're driving around America and seeing people and having meetings. And the name of our tour is the Pineapple Express, cars, pickleball, and people. So we're looking for good golf. We're looking for any pickleball and we're looking for people. And so we're having big events, small events, coffee shop events, and we're meeting people and we're also seeing the country, which is great. A lot of fun.
Fantastic. Okay, so one real quick again, if you have not read The 4-Year Career, you need to get a copy of this right away. You can get it at blissbusiness.com or is it richardbrooke.com? Which one would they go to for the book?
Either one.
Either one. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to also say, Kimmy, his wife, wrote a book that's specifically tailored to women. And I think that's exceptional and excellent because, of course, 80% of the profile in Nikan is women. And so we're obviously a business that attracts women. And this would be a great lead. Now, this book is used a couple of ways. I've been using it as a support tool to help people who have joined my team to really get a better understanding of what's at stake, what kind of skin they can get or put in the game, given what kind of return they can get. And a lot of people are not very, very familiar with network marketing in the way it ought to be taught to them. And that's the thing that I think that's so brilliant about what you do, Richard, is you bring a level of genuineness, sincerity to this industry. It's very black and white when it comes to how you present information. And I don't like to hide behind things. I like how you do things. I like the direct approach. I appreciate that that's what you do. Because we don't need to pretend and we don't need to hide when we got something so valuable and perhaps so misunderstood. And there's so many reasons why that may be the case. And I'm sure you'll probably get into it with respect to the questions. Another book, another must-have in the library, this one here, Mach 2, With Your Hair on Fire. You guys know I teach all about the law of attraction. That's my deal. And of course, I got this information from one of the best in the industry, in the business of law of attraction. That's Bob Proctor, my coach mentor. And Richard, you did one of the best interviews of him in a long, long time, especially where our industry is concerned. And there's so much content that relates to that in this book that I think without figuring this part of the equation out, you're going to be limited in your capacity to do anything, whether it's grow this business or grow your life. It's all between the 6 inches between our ears. So this is an amazing book that can help a new person, especially, really start to put the perspective of their goals, their wants, their desires, the things that might be limiting them or holding them back. Just awesome, awesome material. So we have questions. And if I may start, are you okay if I just fire some questions, Richard?
Fire away.
All right. All right. So happy to have you. So amazing. All right. So my daughter obviously is doing really great with her first 3 months, but she's got a team that's starting to come on. And she said, can you ask Richard what his advice would be if this was my first 3 months of business, the newest person on the team?
So what would my advice?
For getting started. Yeah.
So I want to make sure I got the question right. So getting started as a brand new person or getting started? Okay. Not somebody who's been in 3 months and is silver already. No,
somebody brand new. What would be your advice to help for that person getting started in their first 3 months?
Yeah. Well, the first, I don't know if I would call it advice, but if I was enrolling you, Mike, and you were brand new, the first conversation I would have with you is, what do you want at a Nikan? And, that's that you can call that a lot of different things, figuring out what people's why is, what their goal is, what their vision is. But what it boils down to is, what's their motive for building a team in Nikon? And you want to kind of think of it like tip of the iceberg. So if I ask you, what do you want out of building a team in Nikon? And you tell me, well, I want to make an extra $1,000 a month. That's what's on the tip of the iceberg. But what I need to know as your sponsor, and what you need to know, Mike, is what's under the tip of the iceberg. And what that means is, what's the $1,000 a month about? What are you going to do with that? And why is that doing with that so important to you? How is that going to make you feel? I really need to understand, and you really need to understand, how is that $1,000 a month going to change your life? And how important is it to you, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, that you change your life in that way? So let's say you want the $1,000 a month to pay off consumer debt. So I would ask you, okay, how much consumer debt do you have? How long is it going to take to pay it off at $1,000 a month? How does it feel to have that kind of consumer debt? How does it slow your life down? How does it inhibit your life? And then how will it feel to be debt-free? Like, what will you do different? How will life be different? That's all under the tip of the iceberg, all of that conversation. And what I want to do with that conversation, Mike, is I want to bring that buried under or hidden underwater body of conversation. I want to bring it to the surface so it's present for you and present for me. And here's why. The most important thing for you to succeed in your first 90-day, Mike, is going to be your motivation. And motivation is simply the story you tell yourself about doing Nikon. And what is doing Nikon? Well, it's using the products effectively, and it's telling your story, and it's promoting your story to people, as many people as you can in the first 90 days. Because let's face it, those first 90 days, you only get one 90-day story. You only get one chance to create your launch in Nikon. And so I would also be talking to you about, hey, the runway is only so long, right? It's only 5,000 feet long. It's not indefinite. And so we got to get lift off before we get to the end of the runway. So I don't want you to, be frantic. I don't want you to go crazy. I don't want you to talk to, 50 people a day. I just want you to understand that a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, when you're enrolling people, Mike, and you're talking to them about their first 90 days, they're going to ask you about your first 90 days.
Yep.
And so you only get one of them. You only get one shot at a story. And so the difference maker in that first 90 days is not knowledge, and it's not skills. It's motive. It's fire. It's the story that you tell yourself during that first 90 days. And where that's going to come from is why you're doing Nikon. And it's really a very simple balancing act. So over here on this side of the scale, we have a desire to avoid certain things. So here's some of the things that a new person in Nikon will want to avoid. They're going to want to avoid having to carve out extra time, specific time, to do their Nikon business, to build. So they don't get to watch TV as much as they did before. They don't get to lay around as much as they did before. Now they've got to create some intentional time in building a business. And guess what? There's a bit of a resistance to doing that. There's a bit of a, I'd rather just keep doing what I was doing. And so there's an avoidance to doing the work. Something else that people are going to want to avoid is rejection. So when I have the idea of, well, I'm going to go talk to, 10 people about Nikon, maybe the first 3 or 4 of them tell me no. And so I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to feel that anymore. I don't want to hear that anymore. So I have a desire to avoid the rejection. So if you could put over here on this side of the scale, everything about Nikan that you want to avoid and give it a certain weight, here's a simple way of explaining whether or not somebody's going to be successful. They got to have something over here that's more important than avoiding the things they're trying to avoid in Nikan. They got to have a reason, a payoff, a vision, a goal. They got to have a motive for building that's more important to them than their motives for avoiding building.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, if you go talk to 10 people about Nikan, most of them are going to say no. It's just the way it is, right? It's pretty typical in all sales, unless you're a highly influential person. So I could answer this question for an hour, Mike, but the essence of it is job one when you enroll somebody is find out what their motive is and help them keep it front and center, front of mind, present for themselves. Because if you don't keep that motive present for them, reasons why not to do Nikan are going to take the place.
Yeah, creative avoidance.
You want to keep motive front and center. The second thing that I think is important in that first 90 days is who are you going to talk to? And so if I enrolled you, I would spend some time with you talking about who are you going to talk to? And it's, it's not important to have 100 names or 50 names, or that's not important. What's more important is, so as I go across this list here, let's say, Mike, that these were your prospects. So Sandra would be on your list, and I'm not sure if it's, is it Gita?
Yeah.
Might be on your list, and Barbara and Sandy. These are the people I see across my screen here. So what I would be asking you, Michael, is, well, tell me about Sandra. How do you know her? Where does she live? What does she do for a living? What does her spouse do for a living? Has she ever done network marketing before? What kind of money does she earn? What kind of health issues might she have? I want to understand as much about Sandra as you do. And I don't know her. I'm your upline. And why do I want to understand about Sandra? Because I'm going to coach you on how to approach her. I might even talk to her with you, right? So I need to know who she is. And by understanding who Sandra is and what she does for a living, what her spouse does for a living, what some of her hot buttons might be, I might also be able to guide you. Okay, let's send her this video, or let's send her this testimonial, or let's send her this. So there's a lot of different things to send people, right? If I understand who your prospects are, I can help guide you on how to approach them. So I would have that conversation with you, Mike, about at least your first 20 prospects. And, the most important, there's other things, of course, that you want to do to launch, but the most important thing is figure out why you're doing this and get really, really clear about it. And make sure it's more important than the reasons why you wouldn't do it. And then figure out who you want to approach and how you're going to approach them tools-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Mike, the most important thing is let's launch. Let's get some people under you. Very few people quit in their first 90 days. If they have somebody active under them.
Yep.
So like job one is I'm going to get one person active under you. They're not going to be my prospect. They're going to be yours, but we're going to get one active person under you so that you feel how this works. You see it working. And then we're going to go for 4. And then we're going to go for 10. And we're going to get you a couple of generations of people active. And as long as you're willing to run hard in the next 90 days, Mike, I'm going to run hard with you. and we're going to build you a team, and we're going to build you a 90-day story. And if there's a rank that can be achieved in that, we're going to build to that rank. Rank's not as important as team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rank is a very specific set of requirements. Sometimes they can be elusive because it's a people business. So it's not so important to me that you hit a rank. It's more important that you build a team and you have some success, because then what we're going to be doing from that 90-day period on, Mike, is we're going to take your story of what you did in your first 90 days, and we're going to take it down into your team, and we're going to find out who on your team wants to duplicate what you did.
Brilliant.
And we just run with them. And so if in the first 90 days, I don't know, what's the volume of a silver?
6,000 points.
Great. So in the first 90 days, we get you 6,000 points. And let's say we got 10 people on your team at the end of 90 days. We go down through those 10 people, we interview them, and we find out, hey, whatever money you made by creating that 6,000 points, who wants to make this money? Who wants to build this kind of team? Who wants to get to silver in 90 days? And let's say out of 10 people, we get 3 people that raise their hand. What do we do for the next 90 days? We work with those 3 people and get them to silver in 90 days. Now, maybe only 2 of them make it. And what do we do the next 90 days? Well, now we have 40 or 50 people on the team. So we go down through the team and say, hey, who wants to go to silver in the next 90 days? And now we get 5 or 6 people, right? Because there's just more people. What do we do for the next 90 days? We run with those 5 or 6 people.
Awesome. Awesome, Richard. And this leads into the second question she had, which was how to create a strong team culture.
Well, the simplest shortcut to that is what I call cultural commitments. And cultural commitments are whatever you want your team culture to look like. And this might require, you know, let's say there's 2 or 3 or 4 of you that have the ambition to create a team culture. So what I would suggest is get in a room for a half a day with a big whiteboard and brainstorm, what do you want this culture to look like? What do you want it to smell like? What do you want it to taste like? What do you want it to sound like? What do you want it to feel like? What do you want the culture to do? And come up with some philosophies, some rules, some expectations, some boundaries that define the culture. For example, if I'm building a team in network marketing, one of the things I want in my team culture is I don't want whining. I don't want whining and complaining, chronic whining and complaining. Now, you know, if there's a problem, I want to know about it. I only need to know about it once. I only need to know the facts, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know if the group's old enough to remember Dragnet, but, you know, it's an old US cop show in the 50s in LA, and Sergeant Friday of Dragnet. He's worth watching a clip of Sergeant Friday and Dragnet, because in every episode of Dragnet, when Sergeant Friday would go to interview the witness would, you know, Sergeant Friday would say, okay, what happened, right? And the witness would go on for like a half hour about what happened. And Sergeant Friday was famous for saying, just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts, ma'am. I don't want all the drama. I don't want all the story. I don't need to hear about this for the next half hour. Just tell me what happened. And, you know, what happens in network marketing, because it's not defined in culture, is, you know, people bring their habits from life into your team. And if their life allows for whining and complaining about something ad nauseum, why do they do that? Yeah, well, because somebody allows them to, somebody listens to them, right?
Right.
If nobody listens to the whining and complaining, the whiners and complainers would have no one to talk to. They'd soon learn there's no place for whining and complaining. So, another cultural commitment that I like is gossip. No gossip. And what is gossip? Well, that's two people talking about somebody behind their back. So, you just have a rule in the culture that don't say anything about people you wouldn't say directly to their face. And, no negativity downline. All negativity goes upline. No negativity goes downline. Everybody take 100% responsibility, So Michael, if you're on my team and you keep calling me up and asking me, hey, what's the qualification for silver? I might give you that answer once, but the next time you ask me what the qualification for silver is, my response is going to be, don't forget, Michael, cultural commitment number 3, which is take 100% responsibility for your own business. And part of what that means is I'm not going to tell you something you can learn for yourself, because if I just keep giving you the answer, you're just going to keep coming to me for the answer and you're never going to learn it. So my second answer when you ask me what's the qualifications for silver is, go figure it out. You already asked me once, don't ask me again. And, I would say all these things politely and nicely, but so here's what cultural commitments are. They're probably the best example and where I got the idea from is the 10 Commandments. So Christianity is a culture, and it's defined in part by the 10 Commandments. So they're basically rules of how Jesus Christ, I guess he created the 10 Commandments. I'm not an expert on Christianity, but he created the 10 Commandments to define the culture of his community. And they're basically rules. And when the rules are established, expectations perhaps is a better way of describing them, and everybody understands what the rules are, then the cool thing about a cultural commitment document, Mike, is if you are an exception to the rule, if you're violating the rule, I don't have to personally call you out and make what seems like a judgment call about what you're doing. I don't have to say, you know what, Mike, I don't really think it's a good thing that you're gossiping or being negative, or because then it gets personal, right? If I say that to Mike, Mike thinks I don't like him, I'm picking on him, I'm being judgmental about him. But if it's in the rules, everyone knows that if Mike violates the rules, everyone tends to hold him accountable. So the cultural commitments, they could be 5, 10, 15. They're basically rules, philosophies of how do you want your culture, your team to function. And then once you create that, how do you sustain it? Well, you as the leader have to walk the talk. You have to be an example of the culture you want to create. And then you also have to have boundaries. And if the cultural commitments don't curb people's behavior, you have to call them out privately, but you can't tolerate behavior that you don't want in your team culture. And another like typical one that I definitely have on my team culture is I don't want anybody on my team going after other network marketers. Right. So one of the things that, even people as a coach, they come to me and in, one of my training classes and or something and say, hey, I got a Nikon distributor, and I think I can probably get him, in my weight loss deal. And, what's the best way for me to get the Nikon distributor? Well, I don't know. Go ask somebody else. But how about you don't go after the Nikon distributor because you don't want him coming after your people, do you? No, no, that'd be horrible. Right. Well, don't be horrible then. How about go build with the 300 billion people that are not in network marketing?
Perfect. Hey, folks, these are all amazing answers. And I know we have to get to some questions that we're going to do right now. If you're not checking the chat, there's some, Susie's put some stuff on the chat under Team RBB for you to links to the books and so forth. And Richard, don't let us end this call without me getting some information about your next program, because I know you've had some tweaks that you've recently added to it. And so we got to get to that. So let's take a few questions. I know there's a few here. This one I'm going to ask on behalf of a few people who've asked me to ask you this, okay? Please give some responses to those who are asking if this is a pyramid scheme, or they don't ask but pronounce it as one. So they're still getting a bit of this issue with the network marketing thing being a pyramid thing.
Yeah. Well, let me say this, that who you are being in the face of that objection is way more important than what you say to them about it. What do I mean by who you're being? If you're being defensive, if somebody calling Nikon a pyramid scheme frustrates you or makes you angry, that shifts your state of being into frustration or anger. Defensiveness. That will kill the conversation more than anything. Or if how you hear that objection is an opportunity, you hear it as an opportunity to educate, and you hear it as an opportunity to learn something. So I have a whole training module around objections, and pyramid schemes just is one of many. But first and foremost, if the objection lands on you and makes you small, makes you angry, changes your energy such that you want to argue, you want to be right, you want to make them wrong, you want to change their mind, all of that kind of energy, you lose the battle. And pyramid scheme is like a perfect example because, first of all, there are no, at least in America, I don't know about Canada specifically, but in the United States of America, there are actually no federal laws anywhere that define a pyramid scheme as it applies to network marketing. So if somebody says, oh, Nikon in the United States is a pyramid scheme, well, they don't know what they're talking about because there's no way to define that. There's no such thing as a multi-level marketing pyramid scheme legally because it's not defined anywhere in federal law. Now, there's some states that define pyramid schemes, but the only way they define them is by citing companies in the 1970s that got put out of business as a pyramid scheme. So my point is this: arguing a pyramid scheme on the merits of whether or not Nikon is a pyramid scheme is a losing proposition. It's going to go nowhere. So you might say something like, well, Nikon's not a pyramid scheme because, you know, we have way more customers than we have distributors, or it's not a pyramid scheme because we have repeat customers, or it's not a pyramid scheme because, you know, you don't pay for the right to recruit others. It's not a pyramid scheme because we don't actually get paid to recruit other people. We only get paid when product is sold. You might say all of those things. It's not going to change the prospect's mind at all. Because the prospect, you know, it's kind of like, you know, somebody is, or you guys have an election today, don't you, in Canada, right? So it's kind of like, you know, somebody's a liberal and, you know, they're making an accusation about politics and you're a conservative and you're going to what, make them wrong about being a liberal? It's just not possible, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So what does make sense? Actually, to listen to them makes a lot of sense. To be curious about where do they get the idea that this is a pyramid scheme? Now, you can't actually do that. You can't engage in a curiosity conversation with them if you're defensive and argumentative.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just end up being an argument. But if you can have enough confidence, like I could ask you, is Nikon a pyramid scheme? And I would hope you would say no, but I might also ask you, well, could you give me 5 reasons why it's not? Well, if you can't give me 5 reasons why it's not, then you should not even be in this conversation with a prospect that thinks it is, because they'll give you 5 reasons why it is, right? So your confidence better come from knowledge. And I just gave you 5 reasons why it's not.
By the way, if you haven't got the reasons, read the book.
Yeah, it's all there. It's all in there about what is a pyramid. And you know, to give you the shortcut, if a multi-level marketing company is actually a pyramid scheme, here's what it would look like. People are recruiting and there might be a product involved, but nobody really cares about the product. Unfortunately, that's a very gray area and very subjective. It's not easy to quantify that. But culturally, everyone's recruiting. People may be buying product, but the only reason they're buying product is to fund the compensation plan so that people can make money. And the reason why it's so difficult, almost impossible, for the federal government to prosecute a network marketing company as a pyramid scheme is, how do you actually determine whether a company is all about the money and not about the product if they're actually selling a product? Now, if a network marketing company was not selling a product and they were just moving money around, well, that's a classic pyramid scheme. But if there is a product involved, then it comes down to, well, do people really care about this product? Would people buy this product if there wasn't a comp plan? It's all very subjective, right? It's just, there's no cheese down that tunnel. The proper response is to come from confidence, come from peace, come from knowledge that Nikon is not even remotely a pyramid scheme. Don't say that. Instead, ask them. Somebody says, oh, I think this is a pyramid scheme, or isn't this a pyramid scheme? My response would be, well, I don't think so, but why do you think it might be? And actually take a whole different approach to objections. Instead of trying to overcome them, try to understand them. Like, really understand them. And ask a lot of questions about, how do you know that? Where did you learn that? Why do you think that? What's your experience around that? And you got to really manage your state of being in that conversation so that you don't show up as argumentative. And just learn. And what you'll find, in my experience, is if you allow people to be heard, they will feel honored and respected, and they might give you an opportunity to be heard.
Great advice.
And if they give you an opportunity to be heard, show them the 5 reasons why Nikon's not even remotely a pyramid scheme, and let it go at that.
Awesome. Okay, folks, great answer. If you got a question, raise your hand, please, and I'll unmute you, and then you can ask Richard the question. Some of you may have already written one in. If you can just go ahead and ask the question.
I only see. So I see D has a question. How's a good way to bring up our biz when we may look like we're already retired, so we're not asked, what do you do? D, could you come on and ask that question? Because I don't understand it the way it's written.
Sure. Hi, Richard and everyone. So just, gray hair. I know you do too, but you're a much younger guy. So in conversation, we're just getting to know someone, small talk, all of that. And I may say, what do you do? Or that type thing. And it'll go somewhere. They'll tell me about that or whatever. But it's never asked of me because I think they assume I'm retired. So I wondered, how do we, offer that as a possibility so that they know that we, are active and all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dee. I've actually never heard that question before. Great question. Well, if that happened to me, and of course you're just making up, you're making up the story that they think you're retired, so they're not asking you what you do.
Okay.
Has anybody ever told you that? By the way, Dee, I'm not going to ask you what you do because I think you're so old you must be retired. Has anybody ever said that to you?
No.
No. So you're just making up a story.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying you're not correct in your assumption. I don't know. So you could try this next time you're in a conversation with somebody and it's not looking like they're going to ask you what you do. You could say to them, I noticed you didn't ask me what I do. Is that because you think I'm so old that I must be retired?
That's great.
And you will get right in a very interesting conversation.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
Now, what you could do, Dee, is you could just interject into the conversation. Oh, by the way, this is what I do. But that's not anywhere near as interesting as if you ask them, I noticed you didn't ask me what I do. Is that because you think I'm so old that I must be retired? That will end up being a much more interesting conversation than if you just tell them, oh, by the way, I'm a Nikon distributor. They're going to go, yeah, so I don't know what that is. I'm not sure I even want to know. So I wouldn't volunteer it. I would use the fact that you have been living under this story as a creative, entertaining way to engage people.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Any other questions? Come on, guys. We asked you to come with questions. That was the only condition, Richard. They had to come with a question.
You know what I do, Michael, in this situation? You know what I do is I teach them a lesson. Well, this is how I do it. Barbara?
Yeah.
Barbara, let's see. Bertucci, what's your question tonight? I see you're here. You're front and center. I know your microphone works. If you had a question, Barbara, what would the question be?
Well, I have been in Nikon so long that people think they know what I do. And I have actually gone back to people and asked them to reconsider sitting with me, looking at the opportunity, checking out what I do, because you think you know what I do, but you really don't. And would you be willing to go through the hoops, the steps, that the shift or the issue that I've been having lately is, and it's me mainly, I think, is how do I get people to understand making money, or the what do you call it, the long-term range of money? Do you know what I mean?
Residual income.
Right, versus immediate income right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people seem hungrier and they want money right now. And I'm going, yes, and you're going to be putting it back in your business. So that distinction I'm not enrolling really well in at all.
All right.
And
So
educating.
Barbara, have you ever read an article or a blog or seen a video that distinguishes earned income from residual income?
I could probably find something. Yes.
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 So this is your mission.
Okay.
Go find something that clearly and powerfully distinguishes the difference. And then get in the habit of sending whatever you find to 4 or 5 people a day.
Okay.
And you send it to them, and you put in the notes or the subject or whatever. I thought this might be interesting to you. I found it fascinating myself. If you want to talk about it, give me a call.
Okay. And the delayed part, right? I mean, I know I didn't live off my silver ship or my gold ship or, along the way. I put all the money back in the sweat equity like that. But if they only knew what I knew.
Yes. But see, Barbara, here's where you're stuck.
Okay.
You want to tell them that story, but that's not your gift. Telling the story of earned income versus residual income, not your jam, not your expertise.
Not at all.
You appreciate the conversation, but you're not going to be very effective telling people about it. And then, even if you were effective, how do you call people up and get in that conversation? Right? That's kind of awkward. So if you were really good at it, Barbara, if you were really good at drawing the distinction between the two and telling the story, I would suggest that you do a podcast or write a blog or write an ebook about the difference between earned income and residual income. And then just
I can promote anything. I'm a promoter. I'm not
so
that.
Then great. Then go find somebody's piece of material
Okay.
that does it for you and promote that material. Don't promote Nikan. Don't promote you. Don't promote products. Don't even promote network marketing yet.
Okay.
Promote the article or the blog or the podcast. Get people in a conversation about it.
Okay.
And then you have Nikan as a solution for people that read the article and find it fascinating. Now, you're still going to be in a numbers game, Barbara, because you can go ask 100 people, hey, what do you think about earning money like in a job versus, what if you could earn, money for not working for the rest of your life? What if you'd win the lottery, right? People they're entertained and they're interested in the difference between earned and asset income, but they don't know anything about it. They know about winning the lottery. They know about inheriting money, but they don't know anything about how to earn money once and get paid for life. So you're going to have to send the article to a lot of people. First of all, to even get anybody to read it.
Right.
And if it's a video, to get anybody to watch it. If it's a podcast, to get anybody to listen.
So maybe my distinction is, okay, I had a couple of drives lately and I've been listening to some old, so I listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad and, the quadrants.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so I need to get better at sharing that.
No, you don't need to
No.
get better at recreating it, Barbara. You just need to get better at sharing the 4 quadrants.
Okay.
So just Google on YouTube, Robert Kiyosaki and the 4 quadrants. Find the shortest video that explains the 4 quadrants. Now, you don't need to get good at explaining the 4 quadrants. In fact, any temptation on your part to try to explain them, resist. You don't want to be the message. You want to be the messenger. So the messenger delivers someone else's message.
Okay.
So what you do is promote Robert Kiyosaki's version of the 4 quadrants.
Okay.
And how you do that partly is by being consistent. Meaning send it to 4 or 5 people a day.
Okay.
That's let's just say it's 5 people a day. Let's say it's 4 people a day. That's 28 people a week. You send a little Kiyosaki video to 28 people a week, Barbara. You're probably going to end up with 4 or 5 that even watch it. Maybe 2.
What?
Maybe
Do
2.
I preface it? Do I ask for opening or just?
Yeah, just preface it however you want. Like if you were sending it to me in as little words as possible, what would you say to me about why you think I should watch this video?
Probably if I was sending it to you,
Well,
I
just
would
say
ask-
I'm any prospect.
as a prospect. Well, I would,
Yeah.
because there are some people like my brother and some other people, I would do the advice thing. You know, I would say, hey, can you check this out for me and let me know what you think? Kind of thing.
Super old school and manipulative.
I've been in a long time. That's what I used to do, is ask people for their advice on it. Because I
Yeah.
didn't know the numbers. Okay.
Well, if it's authentic asking for advice, but that only works if the person you're asking,
Knows.
the way they see the relationship is, oh yeah, it makes sense that Barbara would be asking me for advice.
Okay.
But if you just randomly ask everybody for advice, most people are going to go, what's she asking me advice for? I don't buy this. So if it's authentic, great. What if you just said, Barbara, this concept blows my mind. Watch it. Maybe it'll blow yours. I don't know. I just made that up. It's kind of hypey.
I think that's more to the point, and it'll create some more curiosity.
Yeah, you want to be as brief as possible, like 1 sentence, 2 at the most. Don't get into selling, or don't try to be creative. Don't try to be cute. Just be candid, to the point, short. All you want them to do is watch the video. Why? Well, it might take you 10 minutes to explain why, so don't explain why. If I say blow your mind, that kind of saves me 10 minutes. Or some other hyperbole like that, without being hypey.
Okay.
The real thing, Barbara, is not what you say, it's how many times you say it.
Okay.
So here's what you're looking to do. If you send that out 4 times a day, that's 28 times a week. So just round that off to 30 times a week, 50 weeks a year, 50 weeks a year. That's 1,500 people a year that you're going to send that video to. And if you get 150 people to watch it, 10%, 150 people watch it, let's say half of them say, well, show me this Nikon thing. And half of them get involved. So if you run the numbers on that, I think you'd be personally enrolling about 25 people in 2022. When's the last time you personally enrolled 25 business builders in Nikon in a year?
Long time.
There you go. So
Mhm.
just create a plan and execute the plan daily.
Now, the
Hang
video.
on, hang on, hang on. We do have to wrap up, Barbara. I need to move on.
Go ahead.
So
That's
thank
okay.
you for that dialogue. I just wanted to point out, Richard, one of our fast trackers here on the call is Leo Lemay. He's in the Quebec area, Montreal area, and that's the key to his success. He's been telling his story quite a bit. It's the consistency, the 1 to 2 contacts per day, every day, is what's generating he's number 1 in Canada virtually every single month. He's breaking silvers. And he's duplicating. So that's the key. It's that consistency. Richard, we only have a few minutes here, 3 minutes I see before we're out of time, and I don't want to hold you on any longer than that. But I know you've got a masterclass coming up, a momentum masterclass, and guys, if you like what you're hearing here from Richard, we could sit here all night and be blown away because his wisdom is incredible and learn so much. But time is what it is that we're so privileged that you gave us the time that you have already, Richard. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the call that you've got coming up, the coaching call you got coming up?
It is called Momentum Masterclass. It starts October 1st. It's a Monday and Tuesday night, 5:30 Pacific time, so later in Toronto.
So that's 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Guys, let me tell you something. If you chose to be on that call instead of this one, God bless you, because you really need to take your business to another level. I think I've gotten you as far as I can. You need some more expertise right now.
Yeah, basically what we do for 60 days, it's a 60-day program, Mike. I know you've been in it. We meet every Monday and Tuesday night. Everything's recorded so people can, they can jump in later if the schedule doesn't suit them. And we really just focus on one thing for 60 days. Everybody picks a number, and that number is going to be somewhere between 1 and 4. And that's how many people they talk to every day. And that's all you do for 60 days. That's the only thing I ask you to do for 60 days. There is about 20 hours of coaching and training about how to be consistent. And consistency really boils down to motivation. So one of the things you'll hear in Momentum Masterclass is this scenario. If Nikan paid you $500 a day, and all Nikan asked you to do was talk to a couple of people a day about Nikan. Forget about what you say, doesn't matter, as long as you're compliant. Doesn't matter who you talk to. You just talk to 2 people a day about Nikan, they'll pay you $500 a day. That's $15,000 a month. The deal is, though, you got to do it every day. If you ever miss a day, Nikan will fire you. Terminated forever, can't ever come back in Nikan. So what I want you to all consider is, if Nikan would pay you $500 a day and all you had to do is tell your story a couple times a day, number one, could you do it? Like, think about, could you do it? Because notice how so much of our conversation around us and Nikan is, I can't do it. But I don't have time. No one will listen to me. I don't know how to do it. Well, if Nikan paid you $500 a day to do it, could you all of a sudden figure out how to do it? And the next question is, would you do it? Is that enough money to motivate you, $500 a day, to talk to a couple of people? And then 3 more questions. First one is, who would you talk to? Notice for $500 a day, it's a non-issue. But here's the trick. Well, I'll finish the other 2. So the second question is, what would you say to them? You might stop for a second and go, but remember, for $500 a day, you got to talk to 2 people. I don't know, but I'd say something. Right answer. You'd say something. And what would you do if they said no? Remember, you just get paid to talk to them. You don't get paid for them to say yes. And for $500 a day, notice how all of a sudden you don't really care if they say no. So the three most paralyzing things: who do I talk to? What do I say to them? What do I do if they say no? Vanish for $500 a day. So what I'm going to teach you in the Momentum Masterclass is how to get that same feeling out of the Nikan compensation plan. Because that's really the only problem anybody has, is they don't believe the work is worth it. And as soon as you believe the work is worth it, you start acting the same way you would act if Nikan paid you $500 a day, which is kind of like, wow, this really only takes about 15 minutes a day. This is easy as pie. Anybody could do it. It's more money than I deserve. Anyway, that's what we do in Momentum Masterclass. It's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. I think Susie put a link on there for how you can learn more about it. Otherwise, go to
richardbrooke.com, has everything.
richardbrooke.com. By the way, if you're not already a fan of Richard Brooke on Facebook, you should become one. And just plug in. I think, Richard, you're one of the finest people in network marketing. I don't listen to a lot of people. I don't have the time, or I don't make the time, but I do listen to Richard Brooke. He's one of my, I'm one of your biggest fans, because I just think what you do is spot on. I love the transparency. I love the honesty. I love the directness. And hey, listen, you can't argue with success. You've had it all in every way in this industry, from a distributor to an owner to a coach. You exemplify success at all levels in this industry. So much kudos to all your success and the people that you've been helping all these years. Fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your friendship and partnership. You're one of the rare good guys, so experienced, so successful. And I'm just constantly inspired by how clearly you lead your team in Nikan. There's so many distractions. There's so many other opportunities. There's so many greener pastures and shiny objects. And, one of the things we talk about a lot in Momentum Masterclass is, look, if you're actually motivated enough to build a team in network marketing, you're really about 1 out of 100 people. It's pretty special that people actually go and build teams when they do. If you build it in a company that doesn't stick around to pay you, if you build it in a company with products that nobody's going to be buying 20, 30, 40 years from now, because they're just fads or Me Too commodities, you're just horribly wasting your time. The only real economic value that network marketing has is build it once, get paid forever. I mean, we're talking about somebody making $1,000 a month, but you can do that working it anywhere, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to be a network marketer to make an extra $1,000 a month. Go drive Uber or something. The real value that network marketing has, if you pick the right company with the right products, is build it once, get paid forever. And that doesn't mean that you build it once and you quit and you get paid forever. But you really only have to do the build once, and then all you have to do is nurture it. I kind of liken it to owning rental real estate. If you're in the rental real estate business, it might take you 20 or 30 years to get the properties paid off. You can't ignore the properties after they're paid off and rented. You got to get them paid off and rented, right? Rented first and then paid off. You can't ignore the properties, but once they're rented, all you really need to do is nurture the relationship with the renter, replace renters occasionally, and keep the water heater working. You don't have to continually buy more properties. Now you can if you want to increase your income, but you don't have to. And that's the opportunity network marketing provides. Only doesn't take 20 or 30 years. It takes 4 or 5.
Fantastic.
And so you inspire me with your loyalty to Nikan, which I don't see as just blind loyalty. I see it as brilliant wisdom that, pick the company you want to have your problems with and marry them for life, because every company's got problems. It doesn't matter how fast they're growing or slow they're growing or how old they are. It's like a marriage, right? Every marriage has got problems. Every company's got problems. And what most people do in this profession is they don't even think about what company they're joining. They don't ask any questions about whether or not this thing's going to be here 30 years from now. And 99% of the people that are joining network marketing pick the wrong company. And then, of course, they blame it on the profession. So I'm just very inspired by what you as a leader in Nikan are doing and what Nikan continues to do to be a relevant, secure legacy company in our profession.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I so appreciate your words, Richard. And thank you. Thank you. I don't know what else I would want to do, to be honest. And now that my children have joined me, wow. It's like,
that's so awesome.
yeah, the legacy continues.
All right,
Richard,
buddy. Have a good evening.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody, let's give a shout out to Richard for his time and thank you again.
Yep.
And join his master class. It's so worth it. Thanks, Richard.
Night all. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.